Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff, and this is Jacob here with Behind the Building podcast today. We're super excited to have Buck Rasmussen on the show today. Buck, how are you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Good. Could you tell us a little bit background on you? What are you doing now, and what have you done in the past?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot now, more than I've ever done. My day job, I'm a territory manager for Da Vinci Roofscapes. I manage Nebraska and Iowa business for them. Been doing that for a couple years. Um, in addition to that, I do a lot of motivational speaking. I own a company called Epic Journey, and
Mm.
that's been going pretty strong for about 3 years, picking up a ton of momentum with that here just within the last 6 months. Um, and I do mentoring too. So I don't call it coaching and I don't call it business training. I just call it mentoring because I'm not trained as a coach. I'm not a life coach. I'm just a dude who's been through a lot, accomplished a few
Mm.
things. And I like to work with people that have accomplished some stuff and are really ready to take that next step. And so I work with people on transitioning into um, living their purpose.
Oh, that's
Awesome.
awesome.
Is that typically with business owners or with anyone? What's kind of that look like?
Yeah, that's been so interesting. I've worked with someone that worked in the NFL, a head strength and conditioning coach. I've done this mentoring, a former two-time Olympian, a farmer that owns massive amounts of land, people in our industry that are, I don't get too specific because I like to kind of keep the details private, but
Hmm.
the landscape of our business is kind of changing with private equity,
Yeah.
taking over some business. So some transition with that. Um, so I can't really narrow it down. What I found is in whether it's the mentoring or the speaking, anytime I try and find a niche or narrow something down, then something else comes that's so completely out of the realm, and I just tackle that too, and it's really fun. But to kind of answer your question, um, I work for Da Vinci now, and I worked for Owens Corning. I was a territory manager. That was my first foray into the roofing world. 2012, did that for a couple of years. Took a little break, and then was a territory manager for Certainty for about 7 years, and then took another break and did some other outside sales, and now back with Da Vinci for a couple of years. The roofing
Oh,
industry, man, it brings you back. It is always brings you back in.
They say that you can want to get out all you want, but you never get out.
As much as it's so true. And sometimes you find yourself, well, it's like any job or any industry, you kind of find yourself complaining about certain things and everything. But when I really sit back and look at how good the industry has been to me since 2011, 2012, it's been great to me and my family.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I want to say real quick too that you mentioned that your mentorship and you run the company Epic Journey. That's some pretty sweet merch. I was wondering what that was when you
Oh, yeah.
came. So,
Epic journey. Yeah. Kicked around some names, kicked around, I work with this marketing gal, kicked around some ideas. And when I settled on like the logo, we ski as a family, we're skiers.
mm,
We can. And so I really love like the different icons for different ski resorts and stuff.
yeah,
And to me, my whole thing is your life's meant to be a journey.
yeah,
Your life is meant to be an adventure. So I want the identity of the company to be, like a adventurous kind of theme. So epic
mm,
journey. And everybody's on that. Just most people don't realize it yet.
yeah. No, yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned kind of how life is a journey, and I've found that I'm only 30, but even in the last 10 years or so since I finished college, it's been up and down, and there's been a lot going on. It's been crazy to look back about where you start and then where you ultimately end up. So when you transitioned out of college, and I know you played a little bit of football too. So what was that transition like? What got you into sales and leadership? What sparked your interest there?
That's an interesting question. I hear a lot about how hard that transition is. It's like, man, it must have been hard to transition out of football into the real world. And, I think for a lot of people it is, but for me, it wasn't because my body was so banged up. My whole career, I was overcoming an injury from the time I was 14, 15 years old all the way through when I left, which, so, junior high, high school, college, a couple of years in the NFL, is like every year I was overcoming some type of injury. And by the end of it, I was so banged up and so worn out. I was so pumped up to get into like the professional world. And so
Mm.
for me, that wasn't a tough transition. I sold real estate for 5 years with my brother and we killed it. But then I started having my own kids and I thought on the weekends and at night, I would rather hang out with my family than your family. You know what I mean? Like showing
Mhm.
somebody houses and doing all that stuff because we worked 16-hour days for 5 straight years. And
Mhm.
I'm just over that. You know what I mean? So, but the sales thing, I just love doing this. I love talking to people and just building that trust-based relationship. And you guys know how that is in your business, right?
Mm,
Mm.
You can pitch
for
all
sure.
you want. You can pitch yourself, you can pitch your product, you can pitch your service, but ultimately it's do the people trust you or not? And I love that part of it. But I sold real estate for 5 years and I thought, okay, that nights and weekends thing is done. I want to work for a company where everybody kind of knows the name and I don't have to go banging on doors. I can sell in more of a professional world. In other
Mm.
words, I can rep a product. And so my first outside sales job was Kohler. Are you guys familiar with Kohler,
Hmm.
Yes.
the
Yeah.
flooring manufacturer? Yeah. Um, Super high end company. Some of the most just high end people. That company, it's like I still work for them because I pitch them a lot. But
Mhm.
anyway, I just learned a lot of stuff, met some amazing people at Kohler, and that was my first foray into selling building materials. And then a couple of years after that, I switched into roofing. The transition, to get back to your initial question, the transition for me was, in terms of business, smooth.
Yeah.
Life,
Yeah.
life got hard though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. It's a lot of the time with ex-athletes or someone that really commits to something and then changes. It's almost like a total identity shift.
Yeah,
like you kind of have to reinvent yourself and figure out who you are. But
yeah.
it sounded like you were ready for that, ready for the next thing.
I was, and I kind of took a different approach to it. I had a Super Bowl ring, and I looked like I could still play football. I weighed 300 pounds, and
Mhm.
so people wanted my identity to kind of, why don't you wear that Super Bowl ring every day? How come you never talk about football? How come, I'm like, well, because I want to be good at sales. I want
Mm.
to represent this brand and this product, and I want people to understand that, like, I'm not leaning on that. Like, that's the last thing I'm going to lean on. Now, as I've gotten older, I've leaned on it a little bit more,
Yeah.
but I have people to this day that I sold product to a long time ago that will come up to me and say, "Man, I never knew you played football. I've known you for 15 years, 20 years. I never knew you played football." And I'm like, "Good, that's how I wanted it back then." Because I just want to prove myself,
Yeah.
as a salesperson that you can trust. And so, um, yeah, that transition has been really fun, really.
Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've seen it a lot myself. I'm not a former professional athlete, but just playing sports my whole life, that's definitely gone into my sales and career and helped me a lot. Especially like you said, it's like the competition, right? Like you never, even though you've gotten out of it in a sports capacity, it's like I want to prove myself. And I don't want to lean on anything else besides just getting people to trust me and show my skill set in that way. So that's awesome that even I'm at a low level athletic capability, but seeing that at the highest level too is transitioning to that. That's cool to see.
Well, and to be honest, I'm gonna call you out a little bit because I don't like when people minimize their athletic experience.
Well, I
Because
appreciate that.
I don't know what sport did you play?
I played basketball mostly,
Yeah.
but I played a little football. Not too many organized. Not for too many organized teams, but I played for some pickup and what
Yeah.
they called semi-pro. But
Sweet. What about you, Jeff?
uh,
Yeah, so I have a football background. I started baseball as my first love, and I
Yeah.
loved racing too. But as I got older, I played football in high school, and then I played in college,
Oh,
and now I
nice.
coach. Yeah.
Oh, that's killer. The reason
Mhm.
I ask that is because, people are like, well, I didn't do what you did. I just
mm,
did this. And I'm like, well, okay, some of the biggest lessons I learned were from wrestling when I was a little kid or playing football in high
mm,
school or whatever.
Yeah.
Some of the hardest workouts I ever had when I felt like I was going to die and I was going to puke were in high school. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So like
Yeah.
you learn a lot at every different level. And so, and I do think athletes or ex-athletes have a leg up, you know, kind of like if you're in the military, you just kind of have a leg up on people that haven't seen that kind of hardship in their life, because it is hardship that's volunteer. We subject ourselves to it, which is kind of, you know, it's weird when you look back on your experience, you look back and you're like, well, I could have just left at any time, you know, like going, and that gives you a lot of confidence, you know?
Yeah.
But aren't you so glad you didn't though, that you stuck through it and
So
Yeah.
glad. Or even just in practice where, you know, you hear this phrase like quiet quitting, you
hmm
know, where people are still working their job, but they kind of like gave up or quit or whatever. Well, people do that in sports too. Like I
Mm.
coached wrestling in high school here in the town that I lived in, and I also witnessed it when I was wrestling. Wrestling had a huge impact on my life, probably bigger than even football.
Mm.
Um, but you would see people that were there, but they didn't really go that hard. They just kind of already quit in their mind, and it's like, man, I'm glad I didn't quit, and I'm glad I really didn't quit in terms of my effort every day too.
Mm.
Because man, you start to build this identity around yourself,
hmm
you know, and
Yeah.
even though you think you're getting away with something, you're you didn't. Even if
Mm.
nobody else knows, you know, and that chinks away at your identity, and that leads to bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. Like we have kids in practice. I coach high school now.
Yeah,
I'm an assistant and I love it. It's the best. But we have kids that maybe they don't touch the line when they're doing sprints or something, doing suicides. Maybe
yeah,
maybe they're half an inch off or whatever, but
yeah.
and we don't notice. We can't notice every kid if they don't touch the line, but it's more about for them. That's what we preach about really. It's you're doing this either 100% or you're not. And what's the point if you're not?
Hmm.
You because you know you cheated. I mean, you know
Yeah.
you cheated. And that matters in the fourth quarter or overtime when you're tired and you're like, dang, maybe I don't have it. Or conversely, you have that confidence, like, man, I go hard all the time. Like,
Mm.
I go hard, especially when it sucks. That's when you can really count on me because I did it in practice every single day.
Hmm. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
the sports background helps.
Oh, big time. We actually, maybe I'm biased because I played sports and I love sports, but when we're trying to hire salespeople, if they have an athletic background, especially if they play it at the collegiate level or something,
Yeah,
those are the kinds of people that I typically want to interview and talk to and learn more about because they have what it takes to make it in the sales world, which is really tough and isolating at times.
it is,
Mm.
man. It's a lonely game sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah. That's good to hear. I think also too, like but like you mentioned, like no matter what level you're at, it's the effort that you're putting into it. And like for me, like at any level I've ever done it, it's always been how can I beat myself yesterday? And just continually improve. And maybe I don't see playing time or maybe I don't see the next level. But what am I doing for myself, right? And I think that set me up for this sales career and for doing things, outside of my comfort zone because it was just me pushing myself every day. So I like that you mentioned that too. It doesn't matter, what level you're at, but are you putting in maximum effort? And that's what's going to translate to every part of your life.
One of the biggest lessons I ever learned was I was always very competitive.
Mm.
And so I'm competing against other people that I'm practicing with or playing against or whatever. And competition is good. It's awesome. Competition can kind of limit you actually
Hmm.
because you're competing against just whoever happens to be next to you.
Mm.
Hmm.
That competition against yourself is the next level. And it's really hard. It's really hard to learn that discipline, like, because I could whoop someone's butt across from me and feel really good, but really not have accomplished anything. And we can fool ourselves into thinking we're really good.
Mm.
Hmm.
Well, like you just said, Jacob, I mean, did I get better than I was yesterday? If I didn't, but I beat some loser, who cares? It's
Mm.
meaningless. Like that's fool's gold, man.
Hmm.
Who were you yesterday? I listened to this Nick Saban thing yesterday, just happened to see it. And it was, he was talking about the importance of nothing.
Yeah, I've
And I
seen
looked,
those.
have you seen that?
It's the
Yeah.
Dude,
best.
that blew my mind. I thought I had seen everything by Saban, but he's like, but we talk about the importance of nothing. In other words, we started today with nothing. We're entitled to nothing. Basically go earn it today. And I love that stuff, man. Sometimes I wish I could go play football again when I hear something.
Yeah.
Fires you up.
Oh, dude, it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that gets me going too. I'm on Instagram or whatever, and I see all these coach reels like Bob Chesney at UCLA. He's talking
Yeah,
about how you have to know the name of the janitor or the person that makes the food or whatever because they're all part of the program, right?
yeah,
It fires me up. I love that stuff.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. One last thing before we continue on too, I'd like to just emphasize like what you said as well, the comparison, right? That when you compare yourself to anything, really, you could find an excuse to be, comparing yourself to someone who's not that great, and that's what kills you. And I think that's when it comes to whether it's sports or even facilities or roofing or whatever it is. We could compare ourselves to a lesser company, but that doesn't get us anywhere, right? Or compare ourselves to a person who does a lesser job than us next to it. But what's getting us somewhere is like exactly what you said, is just the competition with myself. Am I continually getting better? And if I'm not, then like you said, it's fool's gold. Like what does it matter? You know?
Exactly. And conversely, sometimes you compare yourself to someone who's so out of your league where it's just
Yeah.
like we get so wrapped up into that. Like, oh my, I suck because I see this person, or in your case, this company that's just like, oh man, if we could just be like them. When we get wrapped up into that, we we limit ourselves from getting better. We're wasting
Mhm.
energy on something that's not getting us better. So again, it just takes so much discipline to not compare yourself. It's human nature, right? But again, we're
Mhm.
trying to be different, so we've got to fight human nature and just compare ourselves versus ourselves.
That's right. It's good.
Couldn't have said that any better. So
So,
I know we're going to transition here into kind of what you're doing now and leadership and things like that, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the football, if you don't mind, about
I don't mind.
where you played and when you played, who you were coached by, all that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start a little bit from the beginning, if you don't mind. So
Yeah.
I
No,
come
not
from
at all.
a small town in Nebraska called Tacoma. Went to Tacoma Herman, and where there weren't a lot of even college guys coming out of Tacoma Herman. I took a really long, kind of circuitous path to play college football from there. Signed with Nebraska out of high school. Had a grade issue that limited me from going, so I couldn't play D1 for a couple of years. I ended up at a junior college. Um, where I was supposed to go to a junior college, but I got in a head-on collision with a truck a week before training camp, screwed
Hmm.
my neck up, and was told I can never play football again. So I ended up in just a community college, not playing any sports, just going to school and working. And so I sat out football for a year. And I ended up at the next year. I had a Division II school here in Omaha contact me and say, they had offered me a full scholarship out of high school. They said, you know, if your neck's good and you feel healthy, we still have a full scholarship for you. And I thought, man, if I sit out another year of football, I probably never go back to football. It was kind of a now or
Mm,
never thing. So I ended up at a
Mhm.
Division II school here in Omaha, University of Nebraska, Omaha, who was a powerhouse back then. Our program got canceled several years ago, unfortunately. But anyway, it
Mhm.
was a powerhouse program, and I landed there, and it was awesome. Started every game my freshman year, but I blew my knee out at the end of my freshman year, dislocated my kneecap, and so I had to bounce back and recover from that. And ended up my junior year finishing the year really strong and getting kind of put on the map for the NFL and preseason All American going into my senior year. And I blew my knee out again the second week of that season.
Mhm.
And so that was devastating. I mean, when we look at athletes that get hurt, we look at the physical part a lot. We don't look at, as fans, we don't look at the mental anguish that you go through as an athlete because you had all these
Mhm.
goals, everything you've been working on, so much time that you put in it. That's the biggest thing, all the time that you put in it. And so I was devastated, but I had to build myself back up from there. And I went from probably being a, mid-round draft pick to not being drafted, being kind of barely even noticed, but signed by the Patriots. I was an undrafted free agent for the Patriots in '03. And so that's how I ended up in New England. And I didn't make the team my rookie year. But re-signed me to a contract and sent me to NFL Europe. So NFL Europe was its own league back then. So instead of what they do now, which are those international games, back then they had their own league. It was mostly, it's probably 90% NFL guys like me that either came from a small school or were recovering from an injury or just needed more experience or whatever. So they sent me over there, and I played for a season over there and played well. And then they re-signed me in 04, and I was on the practice squad that whole year in 04. So that 03 year, all the guys that I was rookies with, which was like, are you guys Patriots fans at all?
I'm a Pats fan. Jeff's unfortunately an Eagles fan, but
Jeff, what are
Yeah.
we doing? Come on, man.
I know it's one of my many bad qualities.
And they're good though. They are good. Um, anyway, we won it in 03, the 03-04 season, won the Super Bowl. So all the guys that I came in with, they all won a ring, but I didn't because I was in NFL Europe. So then they brought me back the next year. I was on the practice squad that whole year, and then we won it that year too, the 04-05. And I got a ring from that one. So
that's awesome.
yeah. But the coolest part of that, I mean, I didn't touch the field. I was, I always like to say the backups need backups too.
Yeah.
That was me. And but the way I look at it now is I learned a ton from it about excellence and witnessing that journey of a group of people like that are they're all alphas, and how you fight every day and how just what it takes was a different standard. I thought I lived a pretty high standard until I saw that standard. That standard was completely different, and it was all led by Tom Brady. And I mean, and Belichick too. People want to say, was it Belichick? Was it Brady? I hate that conversation. It was both.
Yeah.
Two excellent people. Yeah. Anyway, I could go down a rabbit hole with that, but to see that, to see what it takes, was it almost gets more and more rewarding the further away I get from it because I can look back on that and just cherish it. So fascinating people.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks. That's unbelievably cool. I mean, what's it like to be in a building with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and all those guys every day? And what do they demand from the people on the team?
Tom, well, I'll tell you the first day I ever arrived in New England. So, the draft happens and then you arrive at the facility like less than a week later, or at least back then you did. I don't know if you still do, but, I had it. You guys know what imposter syndrome is?
Yeah, I've had that many times.
I had it, dude. Walking into that facility, like this country bumpkin and, who had never been to the East Coast or anything. Anyway, just walking into that facility, I was just kind of overwhelmed. And the first person I saw was Tom Brady.
Oh, man.
It was like I was in a movie and I was watching myself,
Yeah.
And but it was Tom Brady, and he just comes right up to me and sticks his hand out. Hey, I'm Tom, and I'm like, Tom, who? No,
I know who you are.
yes, I'm Tom. But the killer thing was he was so nice and he was so authentic, and he's just asking questions about me. Obviously, nothing about himself, just asking where are you from, what position are you, all this kind of different stuff, and just showing genuine interest. And from moving on down the road, then I learned that he did that to everybody. That was kind of a thing he did. But it was really welcoming to me. It meant a lot to me. I mean, I still talk about it. I never knew him to not be that genuine. He was always that genuine, but you weren't going to be allowed to mess up much around Tom Brady. No, I wasn't under his, I'm on defense. I was a defensive lineman. So, but I witnessed Tom Brady every day in practice, and he expected excellence. The thing is, though, he's one of those leaders, and if you want to talk about leadership, he's one of those leaders that wasn't expecting anything that he wasn't giving. And he would never be outworked. I never once saw him outworked. Now, you look at athleticism, you look at speed, you look at all that kind of stuff. He got beat every day on all that kind of stuff. But in terms of just sheer work ethic, and he thought of everything. He thought of, flexibility, he thought of strength, he thought of technique, he thought of the game plan, he thought of different game plans, he thought of, who we're competing against. I mean, mindset. Um, he just was so far ahead of the curve in terms of what he was working on. And when you have someone like that leading you, then you want to do what he does. And so I just saw people doing what he does. And I remember, I wasn't going to beat very many people at very many things in New England. You know what I mean? Um, so I thought, well, it goes back to what you can control. And I always like to think of like there's so many things out of our control, but what can I control? Well, I can be the earliest guy at the facility, So I just thought, well, I'm just going to be the first person here. So I would normally get in at like 6 and do a workout. You can lift even, during the season, you can lift in the morning, you can lift after practice. I always like to lift in the morning, and a lot of people do. So I'd get there at like 6, and there'd be a handful of people there. And then I thought, well, I think I'm just going to try and be the earliest person here. So the next day I came at like 5:30, and there was maybe 1 or 2 other guys there. Tom Brady's car was there. He was getting a workout in. And I'm thinking, all right, I guess I got to get here. I'll come 15 minutes earlier tomorrow. He's there. Come 15 minutes earlier than that. He's there. I'm talking like a week later, I'm getting to the facility at like 4:30 in the morning. Dude's car's there. He's there. Tom Brady I don't know if he had a bed there. I don't know. He was always the last person out, the first person there. And that's just how Tom Brady led. So I just had a brief window into Tom Brady, but that's what excellence looks like. So it was amazing. Now, in terms of Belichick, what was it like being there? Intimidating.
Yeah.
I have PTSD from that to this day. And I'm not joking. I have this reoccurring dream, definitely in the fall, like late summer, early fall. But even sometimes just randomly throughout the year, where for some reason I'm my age now, I'm 47, yet I'm at training camp practicing with the Patriots, and Belichick is just reaming me.
Oh my gosh.
Rasmussen, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm like, Coach, I don't know. I barely belonged here when I was 24 years old. I could barely make it then. I don't know what I'm doing here. And I just wake up in a sweat. And I'm not even joking. That's actually happens.
That's exactly how I pictured it in real life. So good to know.
But what I liked about him, we're talking about leadership though. What I really liked about him is there was never any guesswork about where you stood. You knew exactly where you stood with him. He was brutally honest, and yeah, of course that could hurt, but he wasn't going to lie to you. He wasn't going to sugarcoat things, and the expectations were extremely clear, which is pretty cool when you're dealing with a leader. And so if you're working under a leader and things aren't clear, that's not a fun place to be. If you are a leader and you're not clear, I would work on becoming very clear on the expectations and very clear on your communication of the expectations. I personally believe that people actually like structure, and people like to know, for the most part, the boundaries and the expectations of what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
With Belichick, there was no doubt about that on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that too, because in like every aspect of life and any leadership, whether it's, at home or your career or sports, like clear expectations set like just a precedent, like you said, like, the Pats thing is like do your job, and like you said, you knew exactly where you were. And I feel like that helps you in every aspect because, it humbles you, but it also makes you like, okay, I gotta make sure that I'm working hard. I gotta make sure that I'm doing all the little things that add up. And that's that championship mentality, whether you're in sports or within your career, right? Like those expectations help you set that.
Yeah, and the standard doesn't change based on your feelings. The standard doesn't change based on how you felt, when you woke up or what you did the day before. Or what someone else is doing, what your competition is doing. I mean, the standard is the standard, and that's a cliche thing to say. What's funny is the greats, whether it's Belichick or Saban or name the coach that's John Wooden, whoever it is, they all say the same boring things. They may say them a little bit differently, but they're all still true, and they've been true since the Stoics talked about this kind of stuff. 2,000 years
Hmm.
ago, and they're still true to this day. So it's very simple. It's just whether or not people can have the discipline to do it.
Yeah.
So those kinds of things that you talked about, having clear expectations from leadership and controlling the controllables, do you think those are the things that separates great teams in general, whether it's football or sales or roofing or whatever?
Um, in life, focusing on the things you can control and going on offense on those things is going to separate you.
Hmm.
Mm.
Now, when it comes to football or your sales team, talent helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's what I think though, and I'm going to relate it back to football, and you can relate it to your industry or whatever. I speak on this topic sometimes, but there's two things that separate the great teams from everybody else: grit, the ability for individuals to overcome really hard things. You have to
Mm.
have that, and the more of those dudes that you have, or women that you have, the tougher you're going to be as a team. Um, it's a non-negotiable. You got to be able to overcome the hard stuff that's about to come your way, and we don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Um, Individuals with grit and teams who trust each other, grit
Hmm.
and
Mm.
trust. And for the Patriots in particular, they worked so hard at practice, so hard on conditioning. Belichick was so ahead of the curve in terms of game planning and implementing and installing an offense or a defense or whatever. And the focus on special teams, the focus on the little things. When you work that hard and you're prepared that well by a leader and you're that tough because you have that grit, when you're in the toughest moments at the end of the game or when you're about to close the big sale or whatever it is, when you have that much grit and that much trust, then you can
Mm.
just fly around and everybody else is thinking.
Hmm.
You don't have to
Mm.
think because you prepared yourself so well. You have so, you're on the same page and you've worked so hard at it. You trust each other. It just flows out of you because that's what you built yourself for. That's what separated, in my opinion, the Patriots from everyone else.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, tons of talent and dudes who trusted each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that a lot now with I mean, like we're comparing, sales and athletics, but even the teams now who have all this talent in the world, but you can tell they're not working hard, or maybe they don't trust each other, and you see that a lot with like quarterbacks and their wide receivers just having trouble. It's like you have all this talent, probably the most talented people in the world, yet when you don't have that trust and you're not working hard in practice, you see it on the field. It doesn't equate to wins.
Yeah, yeah. You might get lucky occasionally and not
Yeah.
work hard and make a big play, but we're talking about long-term consistency at a championship
Mm.
level. Yeah, that's the difference. It's that trust and time and effort. I mean, you're not going to get the trust without time and effort. That's all there is to
Hmm.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, I loved what you brought up about everything being relationship based, right? Like in
Yeah.
order to have any great team, you need to have good relationships with the people around you, whether you're a leader with players or with a sales team, or even if you're a salesperson and you're trusting the leader above you, it all comes down to the relationship with them.
Yeah, and respect. You don't even have to really like them, to be quite
Yeah.
honest. But if you respect what they do because
Mm,
they're consistent and they put in the effort, you know, well, you can't succeed without that.
Hmm.
for sure.
And it won't be very much fun,
Yeah.
if you don't have that. So
Yeah, it's good.
So we talked a little bit about, I'm looking at our notes here, about talking about finding your purpose and your passion in life. Um, uh, is that something that you help people do, or how did you find your passion? Is this what you're really passionate about and you love? What drove you to find that, I guess, and how did you?
when it comes to football, when I blew my knee out my senior year in college, like right on the precipice of reaching a goal that I had since I was a little kid, I had to go through this almost mourning process
Mm.
because I was like, in my mind, it's over. Well, that lasted a brief second, and then I thought, no, it's not over. That's not who I am. I don't quit. But I had
Mm,
this transition in my mind of what the difference is between a goal and your purpose. Well, my goal had always been to go to the NFL, but my purpose became very clear at that time. My purpose was to prove to myself that I would never quit on myself.
mm,
And that's a big difference. There can be a lot of goals that fall underneath that umbrella, but when you solidify that in your mind, that carries through from sports to family to business to everything. It's not putting yourself first in terms of being like an arrogant way, but it's just like, well, I can control that. There's a lot of stuff that I can't control. I can't control if I got injured. I can't control the weather. I can't control my teammate. I can't control the competition, but I can control the fact that I'm never going to quit on myself. And so
mm,
that kind of became my purpose. That lent itself to grit, just feeling that I could overcome everything. Um, and that carried me a really long way. Um, it created this identity of toughness for me that really worked until it didn't. Um, I'm just going to fast forward when I got done playing football. My wife and I were living really our best lives. I mean, we both had good jobs. We had the house, the cars, the family. And I'm going to kind of give a brief version of this, but we went through a period of time in 2012 where my 4-year-old daughter got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes,
mm.
which is tough. It's a very
Mm.
tough disease, but we were kind of reeling from that. And 6 weeks later, my wife found out she was pregnant and had cancer on the same day.
Wow.
And they were going through a battle. I mean, we were
Mm,
battling as a family, but they were battling physically, and I couldn't help physically fight that battle. So I tried to shoulder as much other stuff as I could.
mm,
I just wanted to try and ease their burden if I could. And so I just did as much as I could to try and, I guess, anticipate anything that could go wrong and fix it before it happened. And I tried to help as much around the house and do all that kind of stuff. But then the kicker was I did all the overnight blood sugar checks for my daughter. And this was finger poking and all that kind of stuff. And long story short, I ended up sleeping about 3 or 4 hours a night for about 7 years. And it
mm.
drove me to um, this hypervigilance, um, this hyper. Do you know what cortisol is?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fight or flight.
Hmm.
I
Mhm.
lived in fight or flight 24 hours a day for about 7 years,
Mm.
and it almost killed me. I got to the point because I couldn't not try and control everything.
Mm.
Control. It's hard to even explain. It's hard to put myself back into that place. But long story short, I drove myself kind of mad and got to a point where I was having some pretty serious. I'll just call it as it is, suicidal ideations, and
Mm.
uh, and that toughness that I had created around myself, my identity didn't work anymore, and I had to do something that I had never done before. I had to admit that I was beat.
Mm.
That's a really hard thing to do as a guy and a
Yeah.
guy that's kind of accomplished some things and prides himself on that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I had to admit defeat and I had to kind of build myself back up from scratch. And in doing that, and I still am kind of in that process, to be honest. That was 5 years ago.
Mm.
Um, but I started going to therapy. I started journaling. I started reading. I started writing. I started breathing, meditation, all of this stuff. I mean, I basically took a professional athlete's approach to building myself back up because I ended up as a shell of myself. And
Mm.
so I took a very disciplined approach to building myself back up. What I learned was I was never going to be the same charismatic, carefree person because I was pretty goofy and hyper and all that. I was never going to be that again. I had changed physically, mentally, everything. My approach to life was different because now I had this awareness that things can change very quickly. And, so I had to change. But throughout that entire process, I learned that my new purpose was helping other people find their purpose.
Mm.
And it's been really rewarding. And I come at it from an angle that's probably different. So I help people find their purpose. Hopefully, when I'm speaking, if I'm doing a speaking engagement, if I'm doing a podcast like this, um, if I'm mentoring someone, um, I come at it from an authentic point of view and pretty vulnerable. I mean, I just met you guys and I just told you some deep stuff, but I'm just a regular dude who went through, I accomplished a few things that some people find impressive, and that's fine. To me, that's probably the least interesting part of my story. You know, the football journey, the rest of my story and what I learned and what I share with people now is much more impactful. And I I just want people to, I want to help people get through what they're going through because we're all going through stuff.
Mm.
And I also want people to find their purpose because most of us are pretty nonchalant about our lives. And if I'm being honest, that drives me freaking nuts
Mm.
Yeah.
because the most important thing that we have is time. And most of us float through life, you know, not utilizing that time, not maximizing what we were blessed with.
Hmm.
And it pops up every once in a while, right? I wish I would have done this. I wish I could do that. Man, if I could just name it. Well, what are you going to do about that? Are you going to continue to just float along on this wave and go wherever the current takes you? Or are you going to take control of your life and own it? And in 1 year, look back and think, man, I'm glad I did that. That
Hmm.
brings me a lot of joy. That pumps me up to help people gain some perspective around that. I like to call it clarity. We need to find clarity on your life. We need to figure out who you want to be in a certain amount of time. 1 year from today, I like to look at 1 year from today. Who do you want to be? Not
Hmm.
what do you want to be? Who do you want to be 1 year from today? Let's map that out. We're not going to be nonchalant about that anymore. We're locking in and we're going to create that life, create that for you. You're going to be really glad you did. Then we can look at 5 years, 10 years, whatever. We're going to get back on offense in life. And that's my purpose. My purpose is to help you find your purpose.
Yeah. We really appreciate the vulnerability and the I mean, just it's incredibly inspiring to hear your story, and continue to be on the other side of that, right? Getting back on offense, like you said, and continuing to push. And then not only that, but I think the most important part of overcoming these things is exactly what you're doing, which is to help others do the same, right? Like that's what we're put on the earth for, is to, when we go through these things, not just to be like, okay, I did it, I'm good. It's now I'm gonna, how can I help someone else do the same thing and find their purpose? So we appreciate that a lot.
Oh, I appreciate you guys allowing me to talk about it. If you can get on the other side of it, I mean, sometimes you're going through hell in life, and it's hard to
Mm.
think about other people, and it's hard to have that gratitude. But if you can, and you're on the other side of it, and you can help somebody else or just listen, it's a gift, man. Because like you guys, I don't know which one of you said it. But you said it earlier. Everybody's going through something. We're all fighting this battle. Whatever the battle
Mm.
is, it looks different for everybody, but we do share a lot of this. I post. I don't know if you guys follow me or not, but I post on
Mm.
LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is. And most of the time, I just post something. It's like advice to someone else. But the only reason I do that is because I just went through it that day. Or I
Mm.
saw, or I remembered something from in the past, or I saw some athlete that went through something, and it's just like, man, we all share a lot of the same, feelings and struggles and hopes, dreams, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's thank you again. And I think one of the things that spoke to me there, and I say it all the time, anytime someone asks me for advice or what to do in a certain situation, is I think that the scariest thing in the world is regret. Like, I don't know if you follow Gary Vee or not, but he talks about going to a retirement home and asking people what they regret. And that's the thing that I guess I would say that to your point, it's not like we're living in a world where there's just oceans of time. It's like an hourglass, right? Like time is running out. Why are you not going to do that thing? Why don't you want to make yourself better with the little time that you have left? And going through those peaks and valleys of life in general and finding your purpose or a new purpose through that is an amazing thing.
Mm.
It's a gift. I mean, if you can find it, you know, but it takes dedication, just like when you and I are trying to close a sale or whatever. I mean, it's not just going to happen. I mean, you get lucky every once in a while, but I mean, if you're
Mm.
trying to lock that in and just, you know, create a plan, create a vision, create clarity for who you're going to be,
Mm.
it's hard.
Yeah,
Freaking
Yeah.
hard. Just like everything else in life that's worth it. It's
mm,
hard, but it's worth
100%.
it. Yeah. So I always say that it's hard. It'll be hard, but it'll be worth it. Well, yeah, it's hard. Well, I tried, you know, I have people, I tried, you know, I tried doing X for a week and I'm like, well, it might take more than a week. You know,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
wholesale change in your life. Yeah, it's probably going to take more than a week.
Mm.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. That's
anyway,
good.
well, I just want to say thanks, guys. It's nice getting to know you. And this has been really fun. I appreciate having me on.
Yeah. Yeah, we thank you, and that's exactly what we wanted to do, and it was a great episode, I believe. And behind the building, we really wanted just to see behind anything, right? And I think you kind of really explained what was behind your career, what was behind success, and what makes you a top performer in everything you do. So we appreciate it.
Yeah,
All
for
right, guys. Yeah.
sure. And how can people get in touch with you, or if they want to learn more about Epic Journey or anything, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. My website is buckrasmussen.com. And on the socials, I'm on Insta, I'm on Facebook, I'm on mostly LinkedIn. It's at Buck Rasmussen 01 on all platforms.
Awesome.
Cool. Sounds good. We'll link those, and again, we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Buck. Have a good one.
Yep. See ya.